Okay, just a few basic things about Actionscript for this assignment. I've kind of laid out my timeline here with a bunch of different layers. So I've created a layer, I've renamed it. You can do that by double clicking on it, renaming it. So I've imported all the voice files from my son speaking, so that when I click on the buttons, it has him say what the instrument is. The other half is music, and I think we'll do that later and figure out how to do that best. So for now, just the voices is great. Now I've got layers for my instruments and my background layer. My background layer is the drawing behind it. If I get rid of that, you can see that it goes away up there and it's just white. So I put that on a separate background for a reason, and if I lock it right here, that way I can't select and mess it up, so it's locked. Now the instruments are all on a separate layer. If I click this frame, it has all of the instruments lined up and selected at the same time. And I've got two frames here, keyframes, with the stop action on them for a reason, and you can do that as well. Now, to bring in the voices, so first you're going to go to File and Import to Library. Don't import to Stage. We want them to go into our library so they stay there. When we save it, it goes. We can bring it in as many times as we need to. So import to library. Go find your files wherever they are, the voice files, and then they will be in the Library tab. If you can't find that, go to Window and Library, right there, and it will show up over here on the right side. And then you can go find them. So for example, the drums sound here, I can click on it once and then I can play it up here just to make sure that it is playing correctly, and that's what I want.
Drums!
Okay, so that's it right there. Now, my first layer is the piano, so I'll go find the piano and make sure that's the right one.
Banana.
So it's piano, and so if I didn't have it up here, I would come over here and I put a keyframe on frame 3 just after these two stops. So on frame 3, that's where I'm going to have it start, and I'll show you that in the Actionscript, how to get it there, to go there and play. So I put a keyframe here and then click on the keyframe and then drag my file, the piano voice file, to the stage. Don't drag it to the keyframe, drag it to the stage, and that will set it there. Here, let me show you how to do that. Let me remove these frames. So right here, I'll do an F7 to get a blank keyframe, and then grab my file over here and drag it onto the stage, and it sets it there. And then if I hit F5 to add a bunch of blank keyframes until the sound is over, right there, then it will play as long as I tell it to go to frame 3 and play. So that's what I'm going to do next. So you can take a look at this and set it up that way. It just goes until the end, until I have all the voice files on there on separate layers and separate keyframes so they don't go over the top of each other. Okay, if I click on the first frame here of the instruments layer, and then I click outside of the instruments and click just on the piano, that's my first layer, and that's the first one that I want to go to. So then if you come up here to the Actions panel, if you don't have that, go to Window and Actions, and that will come up. You can click and drag it around to where you want and snap it into place. I have mine up here. And then if you go to this button right here, Code Snippets, if you open that, I actually have opened mine and brought it down to this position so they're just always there. That way they're always there and I can see them a little better. So that was just my choice to put it right there next to swatches. So now I click on that first frame, keyframe, and I want to click something, that button, the piano button that I've selected, click and go to a certain frame and play it. So I'm going to double click on that, and it's going to make a new layer at the very top called Actions. It's going to set a keyframe at the very first frame, that's important. So I had that selected. And then there's my code, and it's kind of complicated there. We don't need to know really any of that besides this right here inside the curly bracket parentheses. Go to it and play frame 5, and it just defaults to 5. We don't want it to play 5. My voice file starts at frame 3, so I'm going to change that to frame 3, and then I'm going to click below the last curly bracket. That way it's in place for the next one that I put. Okay, so now I can do Control Enter and test that. So my buttons, if you want to know how to do the buttons, the rollovers, to make them look a little bit different this way, which you'll need to do, there's a video in the play button. Let's see, in one of the previous assignments, the play ball bounce is what it was, I think, and it shows you how to work with the buttons to make them roll over and have a different picture when you roll over them. So if I click on piano, it should go to frame 3 and start playing it.
Banana.
Looks like it does, and for some reason it played my second one as well, but that's okay. I've played around with this a lot, and so what I've done also is in between the frames, I've put a keyframe, or in between the sounds, I've put a keyframe and put a stop action on them. So I click on that keyframe, and right up here in the actions, just put stop, open parentheses, close parentheses, semicolon. And I'm not sure why it's still playing, but like I said, I've put a lot of things in here, and maybe it's just something that I'm not realizing, so yours should be okay. Okay, the next one. If I click again on that frame, the first frame, click up here on my stage and click drums, since that's my next one, and I want it to start on frame 20 right there. So I'll click back, click the drum, and do the same thing. I'll just double click on this click to go to frame and play, and it puts it on that same actions layer down below. See, there's my piano button, and here's my drum button. And I want that to go to and play on frame 20, and then I'll click down below the brackets. Another thing that's important is when you make a button, so like for example my drum button, I selected everything and hit F8 to create a button, and then up here under properties I have given it an instance name. So if I click right here, doing F8, after you select it, you can make it a symbol. You're going to make it a button and give it a name. Then you click OK, and then up here, the instance name, it needs to have a name as well, and that's what I've named mine, just drum underscore BTN for short, and I've kind of done them all the same. So when you go to the Actionscript, it shows that that's the one it's talking about right there. So it's going to go to frame 20 and play that. So now I can do Control Enter and test that.
Drums.
It goes to that frame and plays
Drums.
that sound clip. Okay, so then you can do it on the rest of them as well. You sometimes just kind of have to look through, be careful with your code. You can start over, delete that actions layer if you want, and start from scratch. Try a couple different things to make sure it's all working. Make sure they stop in between each sound, and that each sound is on a separate layer. So that should be able to get you started and get you going on that.